fact that Moses told the Israelites that these things will happen to them. And that's the dots that we're trying to connect in this presentation. That no, you are not African American, you are not black. You are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And you're being given back your history and your culture today. More bad things that happen to us throughout the years, y'all. Watch this, verse 43. This one I want y'all to pay attention to, because when we do part 2, we're going to give you all a brief intermission, then we're going to go into part 2. We're going to go into some ancient images that we have through a slideshow. And we're going to be able to show you that all of the pictures and the drawings of before the Renaissance era was us in rulership. And it's important because if we were in rulership back then what happened? How did we go from rulership to slaves? Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 43. Go ahead. 43.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
In other words, we're going to be at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, wherever we are. When it says the stranger that is within thee, if you are a ruler, you rule a nation of people. There are other nations besides just your people there. Saying those other nations that's amongst you, they're going to start to rule over you now. And he shall lend to thee. Last time you needed a mortgage, it wasn't nobody like that looked like me that you was going to. Last time you wanted the new car. The thing is, to read through Deuteronomy 28 is a lot of doom and gloom. It can hurt trying to get through all of this stuff, because it is bad. But these are the curses that we suffered as the Israelites for not listening to God. And now it is accepted as our normal, everyday life and reality. If I want a job, I got to go here. I got to fill out an application. I got to go through job interviews. They got to see whether or not they'll hire me. What are they going to pay me? Now I got to find a babysitter. All of this stuff that we live on a day-to-day basis that we think is normal life is not normal. It is the curses of Deuteronomy 28 on our lives, and we just trying our best to work with it, live through it. This is the Liverpool Preservation Trust. They own slaves. They made their money on the backs of the slave trade. I like this, verse 45.
Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
When it says be destroyed, obviously we all sit in this room right now, so we're not physically destroyed, but what is it talking about? The mentality. The mentality that now, instead of thinking husband and wife, we think baby mama, baby daddy, boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of our people, without boyfriend and girlfriend, we wouldn't even know how to get in a relationship. You think about that. If I told you right now that none of us should have ever been nobody's boyfriend or girlfriend, you'd be like, well, what was I supposed to do then? Just have a husband just fall out the sky and land in my lap? How am I supposed to find a woman and know what she's doing? We are so far removed from our culture. We are so destroyed that we don't realize that there's a biblical way to find a wife or to find a husband. We only know prom date, high school sweetheart, first love. What you mean first love? You got to think about this. What does the term first love mean? That means I was with somebody that I love dearly and it didn't work out, and now I'm on my second, third, fourth, 17th. You just never know what a number is today. The way that we talk and the way that we think proves that we no longer connected to our own culture. We've adopted another culture that don't belong to us. Go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Because we refuse to keep God's commandments, these curses came upon us and we still live in them today. The beautiful thing is we can repent and come back to God. Go ahead.
To keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
What does it mean, they shall be upon thee for a sign? If I was walking down the street and I wanted to go to KFC. How do I know which building has a KFC? It's going to be a sign on it. There's going to be a sign that indicates what that building is used for. The Lord said, when you look at the curses in Deuteronomy 28, it's going to be an indicator for who the Israelites are. It's going to be a sign that y'all are the Israelites. Y'all are the ones that God is chastising. Y'all are the ones that God is punishing for your disobedience. And appointed me forever, generation after generation. Now it is very, very popular in our community to say, let's break the generational curses. We're going to break the generational curse. When they say that, most of the time, our people talking about money. We never talking about mentality. We're only talking about the way somebody, the finances that we have. We talk about generational wealth. I want my kids to be able to buy something that I couldn't afford at their age. But again, if you give a crackhead $1 million, then he got $1 million worth of crack. Why would I say that? Because money ain't gonna solve our problems in our community. Money ain't gonna make men have babies and stay home and be a daddy to their children. Money ain't gonna stop our sisters from glorifying whorish clothing and the way that we dress and present themselves in an over-sexualized way. Money ain't gonna keep a man and a wife inside of a marriage. There's a saying in the world that says, the best things in life are free. It's nice to have a little money too, don't get me wrong. But that don't fix all of our problems. 47?
Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
I want to get here at 48, y'all. Verse 48 is everything that a nation needs to sustain itself. The Lord is saying in verse 48 that I am not going to leave you with anything that you need to be an independent nation of people. Watch this. Read it.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
And what?
In hunger.
And eat.
And in thirst.
Hold on. If you want to eat right now, who do you get the food from? This is real talk. Moses told the Israelites that you would serve your enemies. You would serve the people that hate you in the what of food? I shop a lot. I be at Aldi's, Kroger, Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club. How many of our people would starve without this? I'm talking straight starve. You know how we get down. You live with a sister, she getting this, she ain't reporting that to the food stamps office. Right. She ain't telling them I got a man living with me. Why they gonna cut her stamps off? She ain't gonna be able to eat. We ain't gonna be able to eat. Right. It's reality. What is that? That's serving your enemies in the one of all things. So the very food that you eat, imagine a nation that does not have the ability to feed themselves. Woo, that's scary. That's scary. A whole nation of people that can't feed themselves. What's the next one?
And in thirst.
Or have nothing to drink. Black people don't own one water reservoir in the whole country. Right. We all got our favorite drink. Brothers like the Hennessy, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. Granny like the ginger ale. Where that stuff come from? Who do we have to serve to make sure that when we get thirsty, we can crack that bottle open and drink it? Right. What happens if you do not pay your water bill? God made water. It's supposed to be free. It falls from the sky. So what happened when you decide I ain't paying my water bill for 2 months? What they come and do? Come on, y'all. Don't act like I'm the only one in here. What happened when you don't pay that Citizen Energy Group bill? They don't come and turn it off. What that show? You serve your enemies for water. Basic necessity in life, food and water without them until you die. The Lord said He would strip the Israelites' ability to sustain themselves as a nation. No food, no water, death. Go ahead.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness. Clothes. Who make your clothes? Where you get them from? What black or Hispanic community is in charge of producing their own clothing? You will not find it. Again, these things I'm saying them, and it's almost like I'm reading out of an African American history book. But I ain't, y'all. This is the Bible we reading out of. This is God telling the Israelites what would happen to them for not listening.
Right.
And now, this is what we live every day. What that tell you? That we the Israelites. That's us.
Right.
That's us, y'all. And nakedness. Sean John. You understand these people, Sean John, Rockaware, Fubu, they don't own the textiles in China. We call a man a businessman because he's able to find a supplier that can supply the certain clothes and can take his vision and he can take it to a factory and they can make it. But where are the black people that own the textiles? The actual cotton, the actual wool, the actual manufacturing facilities that actually make these shirts out of the raw material. They don't exist, y'all. That's why your homeboy, when he started t-shirt business, his shirts be $40. Because he don't own none of the back end. He got to pay all of that back end, then he put his little stuff on it, then he got to charge an upcharge so he make money as a businessman, right?
That's right.
That's why his shirt's $40, but then the Arab man's shirt's $8. Because he got to pay that $8 regardless. He just slap a little razzle dazzle on it, put it in the store. He put a guy like 50 Cent or a hip hop artist in it, hike it up to $100, and we go and buy it. That's how the game works. Why? Because we don't have the natural or the capabilities of providing clothing for ourselves. Man, this thing is heavy. And hunger and in thirst, this is actually in the Bible, in your Bible. Hunger, thirst, nakedness, and what's the next one?
And in one of all things.
How many of y'all got a driver's license? Who you get it from? How many of y'all got a birth certificate? Who you get it from? Social Security card. Who you get it from? How many of y'all drive a car? How many of y'all need gas for the car you drive? Who you get it from? Toothpaste. I like brushing my teeth. I like a certain mouthwash. Guess what? I had to get it from somebody else. I can't buy mouthwash from my own people. Death certificate, when you die, you need a casket. You need a burial plot. Who you get it from? Toilet tissue to wipe your behind when you use the bathroom. Who do you get it from? It says, and in the want of all things. How many of y'all ever traveled? How many of y'all ever flew a plane? How many black people own that plane you flew? Y'all been to a black-owned airport? Come on, y'all gotta see this. God is telling Moses to tell the Israelites that this stuff would happen to them. And now y'all sit here right now and it happened to you your whole life. I'm trying to show you that we are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. It's not a coincidence.
Right.
And I'll go a step further. What other nation you know that got to do all of this? If a Chinese man in Chinatown don't like what's happening in America, he can go back to China. When they provide his own food, he can provide all his food for himself, all his water for himself, all his clothing. It's all provided within their country. The white man in America that's Russian don't like the American and Russia policies, he can go back to Russia. When they got their own food and their own water, their own way to getting textiles. When a Negro in America gets shot down in the street, they call him Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin. Where can a Negro pack up and go? Nowhere. Because we have nothing of ourselves, because we are Israelites. We under the curses of God. Social Security card, birth certificate, education. Who educates your children? Prescriptions. Read the last part.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And what would happen to the Israelites? Read it again.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Listen, y'all. It's real life. It's real life right here. This actually happened. It's actual facts. This really happened. History of Slavery book. These are history books. That's why we do it in the library. You can look at that, pass it around for me. Yokes of iron put on the necks of black people. Mind you that Moses told the Israelites what? Read that last part again.
48.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Until he have destroyed
No, the last part. The yokes of iron.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Y'all telling me this ain't African American history? It's talking about the eagle that would come against us. We now know that as America, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Russia, Rome. No regard for old people or young people. Look at that. Look at that right there. How old y'all think that baby is picking cotton?
4, 3 years old.
2, 3 years old. As soon as the baby was old enough to walk, they started picking cotton. Crazy, ain't it? And they captured pictures of it for us to let us know we come from slaves. I'm here to tell y'all, y'all don't come from slaves. You are made slaves. You come from royalty.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Nor show favor to the young, like that young 2-year-old baby that's out there picking cotton. Mind you, brothers and sisters, this is Moses talking to the Israelites, telling them what would happen to them in the future if they broke God's commandments. Today, it is African American history. Also Hispanic history. But we're not going to go into that today. This is what I want. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 51.
Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil.
This is talking about during the time when they would conquer us. Jump to 52.
Verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustedest that throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee.
So if you know anything about the Israelites, you know that their homeland was where? Who knows what an Israelite's homeland was? Let me hear from you. What was that homeland?
Jerusalem.
It was Jerusalem. If you look at African American history, where did they pick us up from to bring us to America? Where were we at?
Benin.
We were in Africa. We were on the west coast of Africa. Y'all understand? We're on the west coast. Yes, sir.
Is the Jerusalem that they say Jerusalem is currently, is that the Jerusalem that you speak of?
That is a part of it. It's just not, it's not the full scale of what Jerusalem was. So that little strip that they had today is much smaller than what Jerusalem actually was when we lived there. Here's why I'm saying this. What happened for us to get from Jerusalem to the west coast of Africa, for us to have to fight on the west coast of Africa? Because we're saying that this presentation is going to teach you who we were before we came on slave ships. Well, it is commonly taught to us that the slaves were picked up from Africa, the west coast, and brought to the Americas. So if we are the Israelites, how did we get from what is called today the Middle East to even be on the west coast of Africa to get picked up?
70
It's the sack of Jerusalem that took place in 70 AD. Well, we were forced to flee into Africa. Now watch this. In the back of somebody's mind, they should be like, well, you're going to have to prove that. Let's get it from Jesus Christ first. Give me Luke chapter 21 and verse 20. And then I'm going to go to a historical record to show you the same thing. Y'all still with me? What am I showing you? I'm showing you how we went from Jerusalem to have to flee into Africa away from Roman persecution. Luke chapter 21 and verse 20.
The book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
It said, y'all know the Bible, Old English, right? Well, that's why they use words like compass and all of that stuff. It said, when you see Jerusalem, where we stayed at, when it's surrounded by armies, know that what?
Then know that the desolation thereof is not.
Know that Jerusalem is about to be destroyed. Go ahead.
Then let them which are in Judea.
Come on, read it right.
Verse 21.
Yep.
Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains.
And if you are in Jerusalem or in Judea, which is a city inside of Jerusalem, y'all need to run into the mountains. The mountains was Africa. This is what Christ is telling them. When the Romans come and surround the city, they about to destroy it. How did he know it was going to be destroyed? Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 52 said it would be destroyed eventually. He said this part right here, it's coming. And when y'all see Jerusalem the Romans start to surround Jerusalem, know that it's about to be besieged and all the gates. And the high fence walls gonna come down. Go ahead.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
He said, and if you there and you start seeing those Romans set up, say, get out. Go ahead.
And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Because you might have been away on vacation, you might be visiting a relative, and as you coming back, you start seeing, wait, all these Romans surrounded Jerusalem. He was like, look, if you ain't in there, don't go back. Don't go to try to get your purse or your favorite jacket or your coat. Stay out. It's about to get real. Go ahead.
For these be the days of vengeance.
These be the days where God is going to show his wrath on those hard-headed Israelites that didn't listen. Go ahead.
That all things which are written
What are all of the things that are written? This right here. The siege of Jerusalem. Shall what?
may be fulfilled.
Go ahead.
Verse 23. But woe unto them.
Go back to Deuteronomy 28. No, stay there. Read 23.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land.
It's saying the women that were pregnant, that was staying in the city, they will be greatly distressed because they were stuck in the city. This is the siege of Jerusalem relief, where the Romans came in and all of the stuff that they're carrying is from them conquering us during that time. It might be page 84, somewhere around there. Keep reading.
And wrath upon this people.
Let's read the historical account. Watch this, y'all.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
So in 70 AD, they finally won this war that they fought. They invaded in 65. They tried to slowly coax us to acting right. We did not. We rebelled, and they finally destroyed the city in 70 AD. All right? This is your history of how you got to the west coast of Africa. That's what we read. Watch this. Read it.
With great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine.
Of Jerusalem. Palestine, Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Many outrages and
atrocities
were committed against the residue of the people.
So what it's saying is they really tortured us and killed us real bad. That's what it's saying. Go ahead.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that
from the period of Pompey to Julius Caesar was the first Caesar of Rome. It has been estimated that what?
That over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
That we did what?
Fled into Africa.
We had to head to the mountains. We had to flee into Africa. They knew they were not picking up African Americans on the west coast of Africa, y'all. They knew they was picking up the Israelites. Yes, sir.
Now, did they go all together or they just all went?
It depends in the disbursements, right? So some of us went early because some of us were followers of Christ. So when Christ said, y'all leave, we left early. Some of it was mass migrations at different points. That's why it says from Pompey to Julius. That's a long period of time that we are running into Africa. Y'all understand? Go ahead.
Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution.
Fleeing from this, the sack of Jerusalem, from having to pay Roman taxes, running. Go ahead.
And slavery.
We did not want to be slaves. Obviously, right? Nobody wants that for their life. Heck, some of us don't want the job we got right now, and they pay us to be there. Lord knows they don't want to be no slaves. Go ahead.
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
What? Say it again?
The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
Y'all know that's your history. That is your history that they will not teach you in colleges, universities, or schools. That you were the Israelites fleeing into Africa from Roman persecution. So fast forward to 1619 to 1400s when they come and they take you on that transatlantic slave trade. They knew they wasn't taking Africans. They knew they was taking Israelites into slavery.
Right.
This is your history. This is that history that nobody else is going to teach you. Let's get back to it. This is them. When they won, they took all of this and they made stone carving to this. You can still see this stone carving to this day. I believe it's called the something of Titus. It's like a big arch. But that's our 7-candlestick menorah. These are all of the things that we would use to worship God. These are shofars that they're taking. The whole nine. He took everything. I'm going to try to fast forward this a little bit. Broken homes. All of this is in the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's read verse 64.
Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other.
Listen, it says that the Lord would scatter the
Serve other gods.
And when you got there, you're going to serve a God that is not the Most High God, not the God of the Bible, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There'll be new gods for you to serve at that time. Go ahead.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
Hey, I'm going to tell y'all something. The people in the Bible didn't know that Jesus Christ was white. They didn't know he was born December 25th. They didn't know that.
Right.
They never knew that God. Now, I understand that may be different or offensive to some of y'all that are not as learned inside the Bible because religion makes everything seem like it's okay. But when the Bible says that you're going to serve a God which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, it means just that. That the options for God that you have when you go into this slavery where you're scattered all over the world is going to be the gods of that nation that enslaved you. In other words, if you got scattered to China and your master worshiped Buddha, you wasn't about to be worshiping Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's God. You was going to be worshiping Buddha with him. And stepping on hot coals and shaving your head off like a monk. That's what you was going to do. You came on this side of the earth if your slave master was Baptist, you were a Baptist. You ever thought how you got your last name? Why is there so many Jacksons that's black? Why is there so many Williams and Washingtons? Because you are what your slave master allowed you to be. That was it. You think we was on the bottom of the slave ship's name, Jerome Jenkins? No. When we got over here, our slave master last name was Jenkins. And we have carried that perpetually from generation to generation. I can guarantee you go find where your name comes from is going to lead to a white slave owner. Even wood and stone, watch this. Catholicism. A lot of y'all have stuff like this around your house. I always do, when I do this presentation, y'all, I like to say, I'll pay you $1 million if you can show me that Jesus looked like that in the Bible. You show me Jesus Christ as a Caucasian male, and I'll give you $1 million. Now, if you in the room and your bank account a little low, I'm sure you're going to go home and search that Bible. And when you don't find it, just know that you've been lied to for a very, very long time.
Right.
And it's okay, because I was lied to too. I grew up a Baptist Christian. As soon as you walk into church, white Jesus picture was right on the wall. Didn't matter which entry you came through, it was white Jesus. And can you imagine all of them people that was in that church? And none of them had enough nerve to say, hey man, who this guy? Can you show me him in the Bible? Imagine that. Just coming every Sunday after Sunday after Sunday and just accepting that that's what he looked like. You know why they can do that? Because the people that they're doing it to have already been destroyed. Who's this guy? Is this the one from Good Times? That's the one from Good Times, y'all. Y'all let me know. That's this one. Which one of these was on Good Times? Y'all remember?
The middle one.
It was the middle one.
Yeah.
That she stared at it.
That's the my famous one, right?
This is one of the famous ones from like 1950s.
Right.
During World War II, right after World War II, they made this one. But you know it all come from a man named Caesar Borgia. Pope Alexander VI, son of Rome. When Christianity was adopted as the religion of Rome, they needed somebody to portray Jesus as. And they used him. Caesar Borgia. Made him into what we know as Christ today. The rabbit hole go deep, y'all. As a matter of fact, since we're here, give me Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. I can't make statements like that and not prove it. Read Revelation 1 and 1.
Book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Watch this.
The revelation of Jesus Christ.
Who knows what that word revelation means? So when the Bible says the revelation of Jesus Christ, what does that mean? The revealing of Jesus Christ. The Bible itself is about to reveal to us what Christ looked like. I told you your history is a lot richer and a lot deeper than what people want to say. I'm trying to get the beginning because I want y'all to see how this is happening when it's written. Y'all understand? After you leave here today, we got to wash white Jesus out of our people's mind. That's why these brothers getting killed in the streets and they mamas and they aunties and they wives are standing up saying, I forgive you, and the body's still warm on the ground. Body ain't even in the dirt yet. Because we have this complex where if Jesus looked like this, then God's people got to look like that too. So what that leave us to look like? We're going to get into that in that second half of the presentation when we go into our ancient images. Right? We got to be in the Bible first, and I want y'all to see that y'all are the greatest people God ever created.
Right.
That's the reality. Watch this. Read that.
The book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 10.
I
was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard behind me a great voice as a trumpet, saying, I am Alpha and Omega.
Listen, so this man is walking, and he hear a voice behind him saying, I am Alpha and Omega. Go ahead.
The first and the last. And what thou seest, write in a book.
So if you hear a loud voice behind you, what you gonna do? You gonna turn around. Let a balloon pop in the back of this room right now. Every head going to the back of the room. It's just how we do it. Y'all know how we get down. So he said he turned around and a voice speaking to him said, what you see with your eyes, write it in the book. So this ain't somebody having a dream. This ain't no vision. None of that. Remember it says the revelation of who? Of Jesus Christ. They're going to reveal what Christ looked like according to the Bible. We don't see if this guy is the one. Go ahead.
And send it unto the 7 churches.
He said, write what I look like and send it to everybody. Why? Because Christ did not make it to everybody before he died. Go ahead.
Which are in Asia.
Unto
Ephesus. And to Smyrna.
14.
Verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
The Bible says his head and his hairs were white like wool. Go ahead.
As white as snow.
As white as snow. So that's the hairs on his head and his beard. It was all white and woolly like wool. Right? When you read Daniel, it describes God as having hair like wool as well. The question is, who has woolly hair? We do. Black people got woolly hair. You know what they call it now? They call it nappy. That's what they call it. Go ahead.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
When you read Genesis, he drank wine. If you know somebody that drink wine and the whites of their eyes, they start to haze over. They turn a little red. Go ahead.
And his feet like unto fine brass.
It says that his feet look like fine brass. Now my arms, my face, my legs, my feet, my torso is all the same color. You got to think back then they wore sandals. So he's looking up from head to toe. So he got hair like wool, eyes like a flame of fire, and his feet is like brass. What color is brass?
Brown.
It's the derivative of brown, right? Depending on how you finish the brass, it can be a very light shade of brown. It can be a very bright brown. You can almost see your reflection in it, right? This brown was special though, as if what?
As if they burned in a furnace.
How do you know if somebody burned toast? What's the characteristics of burnt? It's black. It's black. Now, unless Jesus' head was white and his hands was white, like in all of the pictures we have, and he got some black feet, then somebody lying. My money would be on the fact that Christ would look, his feet would be the same color as the rest of his body. I mean, we are talking about the Son of God. I'm pretty sure God didn't sit him down here with no deformities. When you read about his ancestors, his great-great-grandfather, King Solomon, wrote in the book, I Am Black. This is Caesar Borgia. Pope Alexander VI of Rome's son. He was the one that modeled for Jesus Christ. This guy right here. Real picture, y'all. That's where these pictures come from him. He sat in a jewel. And when you came over here in slavery, they taught you that this guy was what Jesus Christ was. They taught you that he was Jesus. They lied. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
What does it mean? Who knows what the word Egypt means? What was the condition of the Israelites in Egypt? How many of y'all ever saw, what's the kids movie? Prince of Egypt. Y'all ever seen Prince of Egypt? I saw it. What was the Israelites in Egypt? Who's familiar with the Bible?
They were slaves.
They were slaves in Egypt. Oh, no, you good, bro. You good. The Israelites were slaves in Egypt, correct?
Yes, sir.
So let me explain this, right? Give me Exodus chapter 20 and 2. But I want to explain this Egypt part because it's important that you get this. That word Egypt does not always mean a landmass. Y'all know what that word Egypt comes from? If you look it up, it comes from a Greek word called Egyptos. That word literally means bondage. When the Greeks came to the land of Egypt, they call it Kemet, or they call it Ham, whichever one, or Mizraim, whichever one you want to call it today. Today, the popular term for it is Kemet, right? But when they came, they saw all of those hieroglyphs with them having slaves. And when they looked at those hieroglyphs of them having slaves, they said, man, this is the land of bondage. We're going to call it Egyptos, or Egypt. Watch this. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Egypt, Egypt. Read Exodus 20 and 2.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Even the Bible calls Egypt the house of bondage. So when the Bible says you will go back into Egypt, that's not necessarily talking about just that land mass. That's talking about slavery. That's talking about being in captivity. When we first went into Egypt, these are ancient pictures. These are the hieroglyphs in Egypt. These are the Israelites working. They don't look like no white folk. Those are black people working in that book. Pass that around for me. It's actual history. I didn't write that book either. No more than I wrote the Bible or this one or any of the other ones that you see. So it says we will go into the house of bondage again with what?
With ships.
Y'all know any people that went into slavery on slave ships?
I answered.
Yeah, I know people that went to slavery on slave ships. They call African Americans now. Haitians and Jamaicans. West Indians. Which ships? Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
We wouldn't see our homeland again. Go ahead.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
What happened to our ancestors when they got off of the ships? Did they get land? Houses? No, they were what? Immediately sold. Master Charles in Virginia. As a matter of fact, they were sold to whatever your last name is right now sitting in this room. That's what they were sold to. Damn. This is a hard pill to swallow right there. That's the reality. Where are we reading this at? In the Bible. In the Bible, it say that the Israelites would be taken on slave ships and sold to their enemies. Go ahead.
For bondmen,
For slave men
and bondwomen.
and slave women. That's crazy, man. It's crazy that something like that could actually be in the Bible. And now it's African American history. So I'm here to tell you, brothers and sisters, that you so-called blacks, you so-called African Americans, before they started calling you Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and even today as you sit here, you are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. That's the blood that flows through your veins. I don't care what your religious denomination is. You can be Muslim, atheist, non-denominational, Baptist, Pentecostal. Ooh, I'll be up here forever if I got to name them all. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about before you came here was named Jackson Williams Johnson. Before you were celebrating birthdays and the 4th of July and New Year's on January 1st. You are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of.
Right.
And you are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And whether or not you believe in the Bible or not, you cannot deny the facts of history. Show me another nation of people that was scattered across the whole world through slave ships, that went through all these curses that we just meticulously went through throughout this whole, 2 hours we've been going through the curses in Deuteronomy 28 almost. You cannot stack this stuff up against nobody else. It's us. It's us, y'all. All of this happened to us. Food, water, clothing, one of all things. Ain't no other nation that needs to come here to get all of this stuff. That sets no laws, no rules in their own lands. That are not governed by their own police officers. You got to think about that. You got a whole community of people who are not governed by your own selves. You got somebody else that lives outside the community comes in and governs you, and then say they're scared of you and shoot you down like you're a dog in the street.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models.